Malcolm's story begins in 1967, when through a series of fortuitous events, Malcolm managed to start one of the biggest car companies in the world, Subaru of America. He was only 28 years old and had one of the most promising careers anyone could possibly imagine. But after already making a small fortune, he had a new dream. He wanted to build a sexy sports car for mass production. Sure, it was a far-fetched idea, but Malcolm was convinced that he could do it. So he decided to bet his entire fortune on making it happen.
Hey, Malcolm.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I have a problem. What should I call you? Can I call you John?
Yeah, you call me whatever you want. Can I call you Malcolm or I call you Mr. Bricklin?
No, Malcolm, please.
You know what I have here?
Oh my goodness. Where did you get that?
Sania.
Oh my God. Well done, Sania.
You know what? Actually, people usually are very bad in forecasting, but you are very assertive. It's kind of crazy. People talk about Bill Gates talking about the pandemic 5 years ago. You talk about that 20 years ago. It's coming.
Yep. It sure is.
So thanks for taking your time, Malcolm. It's a really pleasure to talk with you. A lot of engineers here are very excited with the opportunity. We basically 30% of our employees are engineering. I mean, software engineering, but most of them are PhD or postdoc in AUV and robotics. So, and you are more famous than you think in Brazil, given your history. So, really appreciate for you to take your time.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny story about the book that you have in your hand. 12, 13 years ago, I got a call from Mike Wallace's assistant. And they said, Mr. Bricklin, we're making a book about what's going to happen 50 years from today, and we'd like you to represent the auto industry. I said, well, that's very nice. That's very flattering. But why would I do that? They said, because on the cover, we're going to say 60 of the greatest minds. I said, I'll have it for you tomorrow.
And was really like the former president of South Korea. I really like these guys, and so they choose really well. But all of them make 9% of mistakes on forecast.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, everything has happened that I said so far.
Yeah, people forget about mistakes in forecast, but so. Yeah. I think what we can talk more as an open conversation, but I think at this point, you more than anyone else in the planet is have already made and have ideas and projects more than everyone else live. I don't know if Thomas Hainford's second or Enzo Ferrari still with us, but you are more than one the most innovative person on the car industry. So you did things like that, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that people
50 years ago.
Yeah, but you live in the future, and it's hard to talk about the past with people who live in the future. But what's the story behind the legend? I mean, how you grew up? What's your mental model to create things? I mean, guts or I know you have 6 kids and 6 sons, and I think be around children is very good for not think, but more for be on a not in a focus based, but in a more don't think about nothing, just
more like a childish open mind.
Like ideas come like a blueprint forms all of the times, and you forget the idea right now, and you have another, and you see Jetsons and say, okay, I'm gonna build that. And you go to Canada and you just build a fucking car, which is it's hard. and see, like even with Tesla, the first one, he projected to spend, I don't know, 20,000 and cost 60,000. And it's not like a build software or it's a kind of a really, really hard. So what's the story? What do you think, like, how can I raise my kids to be as creative and as make far analogies all of the time and so ahead of the time? Even cigars, like you didn't allow cigars, and people talking about that today. You were talking about safety, and just for the belts for the legal regulatory side took like 20 years for us to, now we take for granted that, but you were talking about those things like 40 years ago. So what's the story behind what we can teach you, what a lot of 900 people here can learn, actually much more that can learn from you, that's teachable, that's intrinsic, that's, I don't know.
Well, first of all, they have to have an attitude like you do, that is open to find out, how do I do it? That's the first thing you need. The second thing, I lucked out, I had great parents that taught me to go discover whatever it is that I want to discover. So I had loving parents, I had a wonderful sister, and so I had a great home life. That's a good basis, but it doesn't need that, because I know people who've had a really not pleasant home life, and they've turned out incredible ideas out there. So it just means keep an open mind. And whatever comes next in it, if it's something that turns you on, follow it. And if it leads you in a different direction, follow that until you find what it is you want to do, and do it as long as it's fun to do. It's almost as simple as that. My kids, just being around, watching their dad do whatever it is I do, have all found things that they now do that are making them happy. I have a son right now who spent 25 years with Time Warner, in charge of all their characters, their cartoon characters, and sold those around the world. And then he decided, for some reason out of nowhere, he was going to develop the best Philadelphia pretzel ever cooked. And he lives in Los Angeles now, but he lived in Philadelphia for the first 10 years of his life. And he went around the world and he checked on recipes for pretzels. And finally, he made the pretzel that he thought was perfect. And now he's in the pretzel business. He started in his garage, and now he has a place, and people are going crazy about his pretzel and all his variations of it. And he is so happy doing pretzels. Now, who in the world would have figured that the world either needs a new pretzel, or that it would so captivate him that it's not just he sells pretzels, he has a following, a devoted following that think the pretzel is the greatest thing ever happened. How did that happen? Because he had an open mind to go after what he wanted. And I never said to him, what are you, out of your mind? I have another son who followed me around for 4 years, filming everything we did, and made a film, The Entrepreneur.
I think I met this one. He lives, is living in Miami.
Jonathan. Well, Jonathan decided, after being with me, spending 4 years filming me, living with me for 4 years all over the world, I said to him, all right, now you're on your own. What are you going to do? He said, well, Dad, I like ping pong and I like girls, so I'm going to start a ping pong nightclub. Now, when you hear that, what do you think? Oh, what a great idea. It's what? I mean, the first thought is everybody can do ping pong. What's the big deal? He put it together. He raised the money. He put his first place in New York. They did incredible from day one. It became the center of the ping pong world. People invited him to China, paid for his trip and a whole group to go play with the mayors all over China. He now has 9 of them. 9 that are doing amazing in the United States. Not good, but amazing. And after the coronavirus, they closed them all down, but they sustained themselves so that they're now starting to open again, because everything is opening again, and people are flocking again to ping pong nightclubs called Spin. Now, where does that come from? Who would have ever thought that's where he wanted to go?
That's pretty cool what he said, because usually people are afraid to change. Here, if I said, or a normal kid said, okay, I want to do physics, or people say, no, physics, why physics? But you kind of not only give support to that, but I think you give more support to that than if you would, if was a normal choice, like inside the box choice, which is pretty cool. And another thing that was very interesting, Malcolm, when I asked you, you talk about your parents, you talk about your sister. I remember one of the best question I ever received was from a professor from Stanford called Matt Bennick. And he asked me, what's your relationships to your privilege? And I didn't understand well. And he said, are you entitled or are you in trust? And that was the best question somebody ever make me think a lot. And you are in trust a lot. So congrats for that. And
well, one of the things that you pay attention to in what I've been telling you, here are two kids that came up with ideas, both of which, if you ask me, I would say, wow, why would you waste time doing that? Instead, my contribution to their success was keeping my mouth shut and not giving them any advice over what they wanted to do. Not sit and tell them, oh, that's a lousy idea, I'll look it up. They want to do it, let them go do it, and they did it successfully. So my contribution was keeping my mouth shut and letting other people follow their dreams, just like I don't want anybody to try to stop me doing what I want to do.
And what you want to do now for the next 10 years? Because you already, like mostly of, actually 99.9% of people who reach like 10% that what you do, like serving 20 different board of directors or saying this and voting, and you like you explode in enthusiasm and new things, like as a kind of a child with the first toy and first company, and that's inspirational. Like it's not only mental inspirational, but physical inspirational. And I think that even passed through other people who work with you, which is pretty cool. So what's your next big thing?
Well, what I'm doing right now is building another car, which is all electric, which is called the Bricklin 3 EV, because it's a three-wheel vehicle, but engineered by people who have built race cars. So they've engineered cars to hit walls at 200 miles an hour and the driver walks. I've told them they have to engineer this car to survive any occupants at 100 miles an hour. And we're putting harness belts in with airbags in the harness belt to make sure my kids and my grandkids who are going to be driving that car are as safe as possible in an automobile. So, and it's going to be wide front end like a Lamborghini, and it's low to the center of gravity because the batteries are in the floor. And we've made a deal with a major automobile manufacturer that I cannot tell you about yet, that is going to supply us all the technology so that we put their technology right into our vehicle. They've spent billions of dollars developing it, and I've spent zero. And I am taking this car called the Bricklin 3 EV. And if you go to vvcars.com, you'll see the car, you'll see the interior. When we spoke to a couple thousand people in focus groups and asked them what they thought the price of the car should be, the average came out to $115,000. When we told people it was going to sell for $25,980, they went, oh my God, I have to have one right now. And you, when you open that website, tell me if that's not the same attitude that you have when you see that car.
You know, like a lot of stories that we heard seems like a rock sky story like this one. And I remember, you will not remember that, but I remember it was almost 15 or 20 years ago. I was really young. And I went to Visionary Vehicles, I think in Soho or Tribeca, I don't remember, which is like a iron on the headquarters. And seems like a technology company like us, like Apple, whatever. And that was, I don't know, 20 years ago. And that was the beginning of a dream. So things don't, and he gave me a cap and a hat, and I spent a lot of time there, like, and seems like a technology company. And Tesla don't even exist. Probably Elon Musk was still in PayPal by that time, or even PayPal doesn't exist. So that's interesting because we hear some stories and okay, come from last 3 years. No, that's a 20 years dream. Take times.
Well, first of all, I personally never have a 10-year plan. I have a couple of year plans, and every day I'm modifying the plan because the goal of the plan is to do something that makes me happy every day. If I don't have a plan that's making me happy, I change the plan. So one, it's to successfully introduce a whole new segment of electric vehicles that drive fabulous, that look fabulous, that are fabulous at a price that is fabulous through a dealer network that is fabulous. And that's what we're doing. Now, where will that lead? Well, it's also going to be putting in charging stations throughout the United States, so it makes it easy for you to charge wherever you are. There's a whole bunch of things it'll go to, but it's going to evolve. One of the things that's interesting, a human being that I am extremely impressed with is Elon Musk. 14 years ago, he and his partner at the time, Eberhard, called me up. I was in New York. They were in California, and asked the next time I got to California, would I spend some time with them talking about the car business? So I did. In fact, Jonathan filmed that meeting. And at that time, I gave him all the advice I could possibly give him. And one of the pieces I remember telling him was, Elon, you got to have a dealer network. The idea of selling it on the internet, you might sell the cars, but eventually you're going to have to service the cars. And if you can't service the cars immediately, you're going to make people mad. He told me, absolutely not. I'm doing it like Apple. I said, it's not a phone, it's a car. Well, he proved me wrong. He now has the most valuable car company in the world. He now is the number 2 richest man in the world, but he is selling a lot more cars, and he is now going to have to deal with how do I service them, and the back push that people will give you when they get mad because they can't get another windshield wiper, because they can't get the radio to work, because of something simple, it starts to back up and people start getting annoyed. We are doing the opposite. First, we're setting in our dealer network. Then we're training them how to sell the car. Then we're getting them, making sure they have parts so that when somebody comes in the first day, the first car goes out, it can be fixed. Because we're coming from not today, but tomorrow, what happens when you sell a lot of cars. And we believe what we're doing is the still way to do it, even though all the other people who are getting into building electric cars for the first time are following the Musk program because it's cheaper, because you get to keep more of the money. You don't have to pay a dealer for anything. But that is going to cause, if they sell a lot of cars, that's going to be their problem. That man is one of the world's great geniuses, and he's doing an amazing job doing it his way.
And even the failures, if I was a shareholder of SpaceX when they failed the 2 first launch and they have just 1 more left, it was a beautiful failure because nobody is hurt, and it's a rocket just exploding. Is a beautiful failure.
Yeah. Also costly, but there he is, and now he's going to be building the capsule for the men that are going on the moon. He's sending rockets out to Mars. I mean, come on, the man is a true genius who will not let anybody get involved with messing up his dreams, including me.
And what do you think about the genes of mindset? You think in a cognitive bias or a kind of madness or a kind of just go to the first principles of physics and try to apply that in because things easy after you heard like a cost of the rocket. If you see the commodities, like just 2% of the rocket, but build a rocket is a completely different business. So what do you think, like inside those? I mean, Enzo Ferrari for you is a genius. He's a genius, Enzo Ferrari.
But he's a genius that doesn't let anything stop him, and he's a doer. He's a genius with the ability to accomplish. He goes head on, he keeps it his way, and he surrounds himself with good people, and he makes sure they do the job. He doesn't deviate from what he wants to do by other people giving him why it can't be done. That's all you really need to be successful with yourself.
Like I read like one of the Howard Hughes directors work close with you, and like Howard Hughes want to build a big airplane out of wood. So
that was the first one,
and the first and only. But we are talking about that.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah, can you imagine putting rocket ships up and then telling everybody you're going to find a way to keep the shells, you're going to get them to land on a little thing in the ocean, and everybody laughed at him, and he did it. And then after he did it, a lot of times he found out it's too expensive to save them. So even though he did what he said he would do, because he thought that would save money, but the cost of doing it was more than what he saved. So now he's just going to pick them up in the ocean. So there again shows a sign of a genius, meaning he pushed forward to do what everybody said couldn't be done. He did it. It saved money the way he thought, but cost him more money in a way he didn't imagine. So he changed his mind instead of sticking with it.
Yeah, and a lot of entrepreneurs, MBAs, like to talk about, I like to solve problems, but I think like we should be passionate about creating problems as well, because like the first step is always creating problems. So when we are imagining, we are creating problems. When we are thinking to solve them.
Well, the only way to be successful is one, solve a problem. That's the only reason. There's no reason for anybody to do anything unless it solves and makes something better. And there are so many needs that are needed in the world today, from environmental needs to financial needs to food, feeding people, poverty needs, so that the world is wide open for people to think of good ideas to solve those problems, to do something that makes them happy, and to be rewarded for doing it. So there's no shortage of things and ideas waiting to be discovered by people like yourself who are open to looking at things. What can I do? And the only ingredient should be, what can I do that's a good thing for people? And what can I do that will make me happy doing it? Not getting there, doing it. It means waking up every day and doing it. And when there's problems, that's not when you quit. That's when you go push through it and get that feeling of exhilaration that you're now back on, feeling really good about what you're doing. But if every time there's an obstacle, you say, oh, that's it, then you will never get farther than the first obstacle.
What's your relationship with failures, Malcolm? Like, how did you embrace that? And
failure?
Yeah.
No, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is an opportunity to look at the subject and change it. Failure keeps you from going down the road that will not get you where you want. Failure is just a hiccup that says, guess what? That's not the way to go. Get over it or go around it.
Get over it or go around, yeah. And
But before we go too much further in that, robotics, isn't that what you're really interested in the world? I'd be interested in hearing about robotics and what you're doing.
Yeah, actually, we are doing more software. So we are a platform like we sell over 200,000 hotels all around the world and experience, and we have like a 4 billion in revenue last year. So for a technology company in Brazil, we're kind of doing pretty well. But that's the base to build a lot of more meaningful things. I mean,
but wait a second. In order to get to where you got, somebody and a whole group of people had to work really hard to get there. And it wasn't a straight line. There were obstacles. And after you had it, then you had to sell it. So to get to where you are, you've done exactly what Elon has done, what I have done, what Edison has done. You decided to do something and you accomplished it.
It's kind of different. You knew that, and Elon as well, since you guys are kids. And I didn't. I wanted to be an astronaut or a fireman, and I go to the software business. So I would be maybe as happy as I am if I be in any SpaceX rocket. But yeah.
All right. Well, tell me now, what is your next thing? What is it that you want to do next?
I want to change the way people travel. So the Concorde, for instance, is one of the, I think, only occasions that would go backwards when the Concorde
stopped. I used to fly on the Concorde from England and from Paris every time I would fly to Yugoslavia. So about once a month, I would fly on the Concorde. Funny things about the Concorde. It took 3.5 hours to fly from London, Heathrow, to New York City, JFK. 3.5 hours. One time, and of course you're on it because you want to get there fast. And so one time I flew back and they landed at JFK and they made an announcement. They had just set the record of flying between the two at 3 hours and 28 minutes, saving 2 minutes off the previous record. We all get up to get off the airplane and we wait and we wait and we wait and we bitch and we wait. It took them 3 hours for the body to get back to the size so that the doors could open, because the body shrunk in the heat of coming down from 50,000 feet in there and going at extra speed. So we took as long sitting in the airplane to open the doors as it took to fly from Heathrow to JFK. And of course, they gave us a free ticket to fly on the Concorde for the next flight.
So
there are problems that who would have imagined that in a million years? They set a record and we got here faster, and now we ruined it by having to wait 3.5 hours. And you better believe we were a crazy bunch of people ready to rip the place apart.
So our goal, Malcolm, is like a lot of companies like Facebook and those software internet companies, they try to make people spend more time in front of the computer. So as more effective as we are making people to spend less time in front of the computer, less and less. So that's our goal. And we are building kind of a really good team here that I'm really proud of, and put Brazil in the center. Let's say Embraer is a Brazilian company, right? Which is, you probably fly a lot in Embraer, in American Airlines flight, and nobody know that engineering from Brazil. We have the first astronaut in Latin America to go to the space. So we do a lot of things that maybe we didn't show the world, like our capabilities. So I think like put one technology company in the center of those environment will show to a lot of young students that just ordinary people can be extraordinary. In a lot of ways, it's just
can be extraordinary. Ordinary people can be extraordinary, and showing more people exactly what you just said is the best thing you can do for people. I think you're going to do a lot of good for a lot of people by going down the direction you're going. You're going to find a way to inspire people to follow their dreams. You have a great day, and we'll talk again.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Malcolm. Bye.